for most businesses, nobody buys hundreds of them tomorrow. And they just don't realize how long it takes to get that stuff done. And so that's what we tell startups. However, when the money starts to come in, you really should start with profit first in the beginning. People tell me they're reinvesting in their business, but if you're reinvesting in your business, when are you going to get a return on that reinvestment? What you are doing is burning money in your business. Let's be honest about it. You're not reinvesting because investments have returns and your capital comes back to you.
Rocky, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm so glad to hear it.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. Excited for our conversation.
Well, I'll tell you what, I really enjoy both of your shows. And I think I was introduced to you maybe 4 years ago on the Bigger Pockets business show. It was like that's first hearing of you. But I tell you what, you gave great pod and do with your own shows. So I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with the audience today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, tell you, first, you are the son of immigrants, correct? Ben, it's not Rocky as in Balboa, it's Rocky as in Patel, yeah?
Yeah, that's not my last name, but from the same country.
Yeah, my sister's married to Kata, but yeah, I love I love the food, the culture. How did your family come to the U.S. and how did you go to become the entrepreneur you are today?
There's a lot in there. My dad came here in the late 60s. So basically for the American dream, his brother was here and my mom's sister was here. So but they had only come a couple of years before. It was around that time that there was a wave of immigration from India. And so he came over with that. And with that, you essentially have to start over in life. Moving money is easy today, but back then you weren't allowed to export money out of India, so to speak. So you couldn't take any money really with you. You had to essentially start over in a sense, which is what they did. And so when they got here, they would spend a lot of time with their friends who had also come over trying to figure out how do you live in America? How do you build the American dream? How do you do these types of things? And within a relatively short period of time, which is years, you saw them be able to have economic success and start to move up the ladder little by little. But as a kid back then, we didn't have iPhones and we didn't have all these things. So we were stuck listening to the parents talk. But through that, I got a ton of education about money, about life, about how people did things, outlook, and so forth. And so there was opportunities there. The other thing is we met people at all different economic levels. And so I came to realize that having money was good and I wanted it so I could enjoy the good stuff. So I think that was just kind of that bug at a young age to strive to make money. And so that's kind of where that entrepreneurial bug came in. As a kid, you only have so many opportunities. We lived outside of New York City. And so I would go into New York City. I would buy things wholesale. I'd bring them back and I'd sell them to my friends and school teachers and everything else for 100% markup. So I always had plenty of cash and I just kind of did well with that. But culturally, we're told to go to college and to study. And so I ended up going to college, got out, did not know how to build a business. So I ended up getting a job and things went well with work. So I always say good is the evil of great. And so for a long time, I had a job that I made really good money and I didn't work that hard. So it was wonderful. But I used my spare time to always be learning, trying to figure out this entrepreneurial thing, trying to figure out the real estate thing. And over time, little by little, we started taking those steps, but it took forever. Like between the beginning and when I started doing stuff, 20 years went by. And so it wasn't till much later in life that I started to do a lot of those types of things. And then little by little, once you get started, you start to learn and then things progress rapidly. And then finally, I was like, I don't love my corporate job. Let's take that leap to go kind of do what I really love and what I have fun with, which is actually around money and managing money. And so I used to be on the personal finance side. I didn't realize that business owners were horrible with business finance. And it now makes sense because if they can't handle their personal finance, how are they going to handle the business finance? They went into business to do what they loved, and handling the money wasn't the part they loved. So it created a great opportunity. And that's where I spend my time now, helping business owners keep the money that they generate.
There's a few things there that you'd mentioned. One being one of my first entrepreneurial ventures. It was in elementary school, grade school, maybe middle school, buying sleeves of Bubble Yum, Bubblicious, different flavors for maybe $1 for 5, 6 packs, and then opening them up and selling them piece by piece at school for maybe 25 cents a piece. So I mean, it was a huge markup. But that was the same thing. I would buy more or less wholesale and take it to school and sell it. That was kind of funny. But you mentioned something about culture, and I was wondering, in your household, obviously I grew up without an iPhone or cell phones. I think the novel thing at the time was the cordless phone. Before then, you had the 10-mile long uh, coil that stretched around the house. But we in Middle America didn't talk about money. It was kind of taboo to talk about finances. How much somebody made, how much is spent on something. It's kind of like I said, taboo. How about in your household? Was it the same, or did you treat money differently?
Money was an open topic. Like I said, when the parents got together, if somebody bought something, someone else would ask how much they paid for it.
Hmm.
They would discuss, I think, incomes or maybe investments or some other opportunities. I don't know to what degree and how much, but I know that a lot was shared between people. And so there was that open communication around money. And so it was not a taboo topic. And the reality is, how are you supposed to learn about something if you don't talk about it?
Right.
And you go to school so that you can get a good job so you can make money, and yet we don't teach you how to do money.
Yeah, I think in school the most we were taught was how to actually balance a checkbook, like how to use a checkbook was about as far as we went with money or personal finance. And by that time, I think the internet was popping up. Pretty soon it was internet banking. I don't know the last time I actually wrote a check, but nothing about saving or investing, or definitely not anything about becoming an entrepreneur, not in public school. So you talk about people who are entrepreneurs, and this is what was it? Uh, 4 out of 5 people in early America. the revolutionary times, were business owners. Over 80% of the founding fathers and people who settled in the United States, they all owned a business of some sort. It was direct, person to person. Nowadays, I don't know what the statistic is, but it seems like entrepreneurship is on a rise. But like you said, it's not about knowing the finances, it's about doing what you want. So why is it that we are afraid of learning the finances or procrastinate? And what's one of the biggest things you've learned on this journey?
I think part of the taboo is how you're taught at home. So that culture of not talking about money is somewhat pervasive. And so that's part of the problem. Schools were not designed to teach you to be an entrepreneur, to be independent, and to be wealthy. Schools were designed that when the bell rings, you show up at your station, you do what you're told, and you follow the system. So they have no incentive to essentially teach you about money. And I don't think it was till not that long ago that there were opportunities for people to really build wealth easily. In other words, the ability to buy stocks or money market funds or ETFs and those types of products. They're they're relatively newer because I remember when I was younger, if you wanted to buy a stock, it cost a couple $100 to trade. And so you really couldn't
Mm-hmm.
do that easily. And so I think that was part of it is people just weren't it wasn't available. Now business was available. I don't know, somewhere along the way we said business was risky and taking a job was safe. And I think that is what got put into people as the industrial revolution came along. And so that was just the culture.
So I what if I try to teach my son. My oldest is 14 now, and one of the things, one of the methods I get to use or I'm trying to use to teach him about personal finance, growth, the shelf help type stuff is I've created a reading list, Dad's reading list, and any book he reads from it and writes uh, basically a book report for me. I'll give him $50, and then we'll put it in, put a portion into for savings and a portion for investing, and then he gets to keep the rest for spending. However, I one of the books he tried to read was one of my favorite parables, The Richest Man in Babylon. And the problem being for him was that the language was a little bit challenging for him, so we put it back on the shelf. But that's the very similar philosophy to what you espouse every day, all right? With the profit first mentality. Can you tell me a little bit about profit first philosophy, methodology, and why? How did we get it so backwards?
So, yes, the philosophy is similar. Um, I like to equate it almost to what Dave Ramsey has made popular, which is the envelope system. Dave didn't invent that. He took it from someone else and popularized it. And that's the way people used to do money. They got their cash and they would take their cash and they would put it in piles, the rent pile, the food pile. Maybe if they wanted to save up for something in the future, they'd put it in that pile. And when that pile ran out, you stopped spending money. That's simple. And what Profit First is does the same thing for business owners. The first part is accountants say it's sales minus expenses equals profit. And for most business owners, that makes profit a leftover. And what Mike did in the book was say, no, 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 let's do sales minus profit equals expenses. So you take your profit first. Now you constrain your expenses and you hold your expenses down. Because as business owners, we tend to spend too much, just like people do. And that's basically what the system is. The money comes into the bank, and then we take the money and we put it aside for a purpose. So the first purpose is profit. The second purpose is to pay the owner, because most business owners pay themselves last. The third purpose is to put some money aside for taxes, because unlike your paycheck where the taxes come out, as a business owner, you have to make quarterly payments. So you need the money ready for that. And then the last bucket is, this is how much I can truly spend on running my business. And I have to figure out how to do it with that amount of money. And so it's a constraint system. It's a psychological system. It's not designed around doing math. It's designed around human behavior and the fact that we will spend all the money we're given, and we'll use up all the time the time we're given. And so when you constrain our time and money, we figure out how to be more resourceful and we figure out how to get it done.
Yeah, I think it was Dave Ramsey that said his company moves at the speed of cash. Right? Well, he had some. I mean, they've got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property, no debt on it, no leverage. It's pretty incredible. But why why does this seem so foreign? Like the fact that people say, what's the saying? You start a business, and if you find a business, a job you love, you could do it for free, and then business owners end up actually donating all of their income right back to the business.
I think part of it is human nature. We want instant gratification. Part of it is it's easy for a business owner to understand revenue. It it's not easy for a business owner to understand profit or cash flow, because those are not things that show up quickly and immediately. They're long-term consequences. So if I go sell something today, I get $100. I forget that I have to pay for the item I sold. Maybe that bill is coming due next week. I forget that I have payroll. I forget I owe the government some money. I forget that I spent $2,000 last month on the credit card and the bill is going to come due in a couple of weeks. And so I think that's what causes it. We don't pay attention, and we think there's more money than there actually is. At the end of the day, you might have sold something for $100, but after you pay all the bills, there might only be $10 or $20 left to run, the excess, and it's not that hard to spend that.
Hmm. What about new startup costs? And for those, even not just the new startups, but 1, 2, 3 years old, and maybe they're still getting momentum, and it's like the chicken or the egg, concept, where there's not a whole lot of money to go around. How do you employ this profit first when you're talking pennies?
So for a startup, what we recommend is before you start, you have startup capital. And you put the startup capital aside and you say, this is how much startup capital I can use every month. And this way, every month, you take the money out of the startup capital and you run your business on that. But until the business starts to grow and generate revenue, you have to learn to work on a shoestring budget. And I think a lot of people don't like that. But the reality is that's what you have to do. Unless you've got some other source of funding that people are just going to hand you money to burn, it's not that easy. The other thing is it takes a lot of time to get the company moving. And I don't think people plan for that. They say, oh, I've got this great idea. I'm going to go out and sell it. I'll sell hundreds of these tomorrow. And the reality is, for most businesses, nobody buys hundreds of them tomorrow. And they just don't realize how long it takes to get that stuff done. And so that's what we tell startups. However, when the money starts to come in, you really should start with profit first in the beginning. People tell me they're reinvesting in their business, but if you're reinvesting in your business, when are you going to get a return on that reinvestment? What you are doing is burning money in your business. Let's be honest about it. You're not reinvesting because investments have returns and your capital comes back to you.
It's like I guess that's the putting a positive spin on what really seems like white knuckling startup, starting a business where you're in panic mode with infrequent bouts of elation. This is the way at least it started with the fudge business, because you're right. We didn't consider the financial part. It was we are starting a business to make money we don't have. That startup capital. No, of course, you mentioned being in the real estate, being on the real estate investment side. After our fudge business got rolling and we figured it out, and I read profit first, we got the bank account set up, and it's actually started working for us. We started investing in real estate, and of course, it was also profit first for real estate investors by Richter. But what one of the things they say for new real estate investors is to, even if you can buy a property or invest in real estate with zero money down, you should have reserves. It's the same philosophy. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Real estate people have trouble with reserves. They think that every dollar has to be invested in real estate. And that's why you hear so many people say in real estate that they're cash poor and asset rich. It's because all their money is tied up in real estate and they don't have any excess cash to live or to deal with problems. And that's why Dave Ramsey went bankrupt the first time around, practically. And that's why he refuses to go in debt again, because he's like, I don't ever want to deal with that again. I want to have cash that is there. And so I don't have these problems.
After these messages, we'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this episode, Extraordinary Delights, EODFudge.com. Extraordinary Delights is a disabled veteran, family-owned small business making handcrafted fudge and other sweet treats for the chocolate-loving patriots just like you. Go to EODFudge.com and check out some of our delicious flavors like triple threat chocolate with or without walnuts, mint dark chocolate, strawberry and creamy white chocolate, or my personal favorite, American Pick-Me-Up, an all-American version of tiramisu. While you're there, go to the apparel store and check out our awesome t-shirts, polos, and the baddest tactical apron on the market. You see me wear on the TikTok show, Aaron Hale's Cook Without Looking. So, right now, go over to EODFudge.com and pick out some fudge, other sweet treats for that patriot in your life with with a sweet tooth. That's eodfudge.com. eodfudge.com. And now, back to the show. It took me 12 years to get back into real estate after my first real estate investment venture right about 2007, 2008. So I was staying right on top of that thing with about $500,000 worth of debt. And the bubble just blew up under me. So I'm right there with Dave Ramsey. I don't mind using leverage, but it's also it's all like you're talking about. It's about setting up having the good financial plan, having those reserves, having capital set aside for the unexpected, or the expected when you're starting something new and you know there's not going to be revenue coming in. But going back to this profit first methodology, how does someone set this up? What does it look like? How do they do it the right way?
So in the book, Mike talks about 5 bank accounts. The first bank account is your revenue account. So all your money comes into one bank account, and it's a clean bank account of just revenue. The reason that's nice is because when you go to look at it, you know actually how much revenue came in. If you have a big pot of money with all your different accounts or all your different things going on, it's very difficult to tell how much money came in and how much money went out.
Mm-hmm.
So by having this revenue account, you know this is how much money came in. And on a set schedule, we basically empty the account. So some businesses do it once a month. Some businesses do it twice a month. We recommend no more often than once a week. So those are your 3 choices, right? That you should probably work within. Now, for a business that only gets a big check once in a while, then just do it every time you get a big check once in a while. That's fine. Once you get the money in, then based on set percentages, we move it to the other 4 bank accounts. So the first of those is profit, because you should take your profit first. The second is owner's pay. The third is the tax account. And then the fourth and the final account is the operating account. And so based on percentages, you move it to all of those bank accounts. Now, things have gotten easier. There's a company out there called Relay Fi, and Relay basically does your banking operations for you, and they'll automatically move your money to where it belongs for you. So you don't even have to think about it. They do it based on the rules you set. And so money comes in, it goes where it belongs, and now you know what the money's for. Only use the money for what it's supposed to be used for. Don't use it for anything else. And for the most part, life is good. What happens, though, for most people is they overspend. And so the money in that particular account runs out, especially the operating account. And then they're like, now what? Well, now it's time to get resourceful. Now it's time to realize your business just said you're spending too much money. So don't solve it by spending more money. Solve it by figuring out what needs to change or where you've got money leaks, and go fix the system and do something about it. So it might be a sales problem. It might be a pricing problem. It might be a too much overhead problem. It might be that you're growing too fast and the money is not keeping up with the growth. And that happens a lot. People don't realize that growth is a reason for failure. So all of these different things happen, and it's going to show you, here's where you're at the moment. What are you going to do about it? And as long as you can stick to the rules, life is good. The problem is too often people steal from themselves. They don't follow the system. They give up. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym for one day and come out a power lifter. You got to keep showing up and doing the reps and sets, and then you will see the results over time. And that's basically what you got to do. Show up day after day and put the time and effort in.
Explain for me, though, the difference between profit and the owner's, what was it, owner's compensation? If you're a solo, uh, sole proprietor, or if your wife and husband and wife duo, isn't it the same thing?
It's a little bit different. And the purpose of the profit account is also a little bit different. So, first of all, if you invested in a business, would you expect to get a return on that investment?
Of course.
So that's profit. Just because it's your business doesn't mean you don't expect to get a return. Your owner's pay account should be what you pay yourself as a reasonable salary for the work you do. The profit account is your profit for actually owning that business. And so that's kind of the separation. The other thing is we don't take all the profit out of the business. We leave some of it there so that that creates your reserve account. So that if you hit a hiccup or a downturn, you have excess cash in the business that is available to you in an emergency. And so that's the other thing the profit account does is it gives you a cash buffer. It gives you your emergency fund so that it's there in those situations. But basically, profit is to pay you for starting the company and putting the capital in. Your owner's pay is the reasonable salary you should get paid for the work you do for the business.
Okay. So, sort of like a CEO that also owns stock, right? You get a profit being dividends from the stock, and the owner's compensation being the salary for being the CEO.
Correct. And what you do in the bank accounts has nothing to do with what you do on your tax return. You can do whatever you want on your tax return. They don't have to match.
I try to get as creative as possible on my tax return. Uh, uh, there was also a section, and I forget which of the Profit First books it was actually, but it was about setting up two more hard to reach accounts. And I think that was in the original, and it was, the visual just stuck in my head because he said he'd set up two more accounts, and I think it was the profit and the tax accounts in a different bank. And the bank manager said, "Oh, we've got all the bells and whistles. It'll be so easy to bank with us." And he said, "No, no, no, no. I don't want that. I want it just the opposite. I want to have to come into the branch and go to the teller and fill out paper forms and get punched in the face before you give me any money from this account because I want it that hard, that hard to reach." Um, do you remember that at all? Because I thought it was just hilarious. That's how important the profit and the tax accounts are, so you don't dip into them.
So the reason that is like that is Mike does not have discipline with money. And because he doesn't have discipline with money, that's where it ends up.
Hmm.
If you have discipline with money, it's not a big deal. Dave Ramsey believes 98% or 99% of people don't have discipline with money. That's why he won't let you have a credit card. Those who have discipline, great. So the question you need to ask yourself is, do you have discipline? If you do, you don't need the extra accounts. If you don't, you need the extra accounts with lock and key.
I have a small account with a small regional bank here whose online presence is, well, for a blind person using accessibility software, it's challenging to say the least. And it's perfect. It's perfect. I get frustrated every single time I try to move money from the bank online. So, uh, unfortunately, they have fantastic over the phone customer service and email customers, like that personal touch, which is nice, but it's too convenient for me if I would just want to pick up the phone. But it's a good example because yes, I am not among the 1-2% with money discipline. So yeah, you mentioned Relay, and it's essentially a banking app overlay, and uh, one of the things was I think there are a few others, Mercury, I don't know what else, but one of the best parts about that is that putting the profit first method to work isn't just about setting up these accounts. It's about making those automated allotments to the various accounts, the envelopes. And what's great about, say, Relay is that it's not a most major banking institutions. When you set up automatic allotments, it's just a dollar amount, but revenue revenue varies from week to week, month to month. So it might try to withdraw too much or too little, but not a percentage. That's what's great about these newer applications like these overlays, is that you can allot a percentage to each account. I think that's fantastic. So, how do you think this this pertains to someone? Does it work for every segment, every industry, or I'm trying to think of, is this one of the major reasons that that businesses fail is because they're just bad with financial matters, or do you think first you got to develop recognize actual profitability in a business?
So there are a variety of reasons that businesses fail. One of them is they don't have something that people want and are willing to pay for. So you may have something people want, but if they're not willing to pay for it, it really doesn't matter. So that I think is a big problem. Product market fit, and then product market fit that can be profitable. So if you can't sell it for enough to make it, deliver it, and handle all your overhead, you're going to lose money every time you sell something. And so that is part of it. The second part is most people don't do the math up front to determine if they have the dollars and cents to make their business run. And so I think that's a bigger part of it. Three, we think things are going to happen faster than they do. And so we don't have enough runway. We don't have enough cash to last long enough to make it to where we need to make it. The other thing is things change. Like what might be popular today or what might be hot in this moment could become cold tomorrow. So some bit like, well, take real estate. I don't think tomorrow everyone's going to say we don't want to live in a house, right? So real estate's probably going to be around for a long time. However, there are things that people might enjoy today that tomorrow they don't. Look at technology. Something that we used yesterday is now obsolete today. People won't buy it. And that goes for a lot of different things. Or you just might be in the wrong place. You might have the wrong marketing. There's a million things that can go wrong in business, and it takes a while to figure it all out.
You can't sell popsicles to the Eskimos, huh?
Unless you're a good salesman, then you can.
Now, I would rather sell ice here in Florida, but uh, So, okay, you mentioned being able to gauge the health of your business right from these bank accounts. How does somebody do that?
Well, when the bank accounts go negative, you know your health is bad. It's
Well,
that
that's
simple.
basic enough.
If there's money in your operating account, life is good. If there's enough money to pay you, life is good. If there's enough money to write the check to the tax man, life is good. If there's not, something is broken. And you just got to sit down and do the math. And that's what, are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas baseball team?
Yes.
Okay. They are big fans of profit first. When he went out and bought the baseball team, on the back of the napkin, he did the math and he came to realize something. Baseball teams like his don't make money. And he had a little problem. He had no money to fund the team. So he had to do something different. He had to get resourceful. How do I get free entertainment? We'll get the fans to come on the field and dance and sing and do silly things. We'll make babies crawl. People go to baseball games to be entertained. And he realized, hey, I'm in the entertainment business. They entertain people. They took away all of the things people hate about baseball. And what I mean by that is, if you went to a Major League Baseball game, how much are 4 tickets? And then how much is parking? And then how much is all the food and the stuff your kid wants when you're in the stadium, nagging you for more ice cream and popcorn that's driving you up the wall and you're going broke? With the Savannah Bananas, the food's included. You buy your ticket, the kid wants a hot dog, you're like, go get a hot dog. Parents are having fun, kids are having fun, they're enjoying the entertainment, they never know what's going to happen next. And he's created a culture and fans that will follow him everywhere. And he did it because he realized, the way that everyone else is doing this, I'm going to be broke and bankrupt.
Well, I mean, there could be a huge deep dive into the business model for Savannah Bananas because I heard about them. I think it's hilarious. I've I don't even know what show that was, but I've heard podcasts with the founders, owner, not the founders, the owners, the ones that purchased the team, and how they made all the changes. And I think it's genius. It's hilarious. And there are more teams popping up. But how did they employ profit first to the it seems like this goes beyond simple banking.
So again, profit first, everyone mistakes this. Everyone thinks profit first is about the 5 bank accounts. It's not. It's about the psychology of,
Hmm.
how do I be profitable? How do I run my business with limited resources? And how do I make it work better? See, too often we just throw money at the problem instead of thinking about the problem and how to change it. So it's a psychological mindset shift of, how am I going to run a baseball team like this with no money? What are we going to do and how am I going to get it done? And that's what happened. He said, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to entertain people. I can't pay entertainers. Great. Let's get the fans on the field. Let's make the baseball players be entertaining. Let's figure out different things. Let's try it. Let's experiment. Let's see what works and what doesn't. And if it doesn't work, we cut it. If it works, we improve on it. And that's basically what they do.
It sounds like the basic mechanics of being an entrepreneur. finding a pain point, a need in the break in the system, uh, and finding a way to fix it and have people pay you for it, and profit.
And that's true. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Bezos and Amazon when they first started and they first were creating the company. He didn't have the money to buy the books. So they had to figure out how to get the books. And in the movie, they talk about the fact he figured out, because if somebody ordered a book, he had to order 10 of them. And he's like, I can't afford the other 9. He found out that if he ordered a book that wasn't available, they would let him put the order in for one book that's available and 9 that aren't. He'd pay for the one book and the others would sit on back order. And so he got resourceful. He figured out a glitch in the system to get the one book that he could afford and deliver it to the person.
Filling that need, right? Perfect.
And that's a big part of it. I think it's being resourceful, doing things differently, and being okay to be daring with that. And that's a big part of it. And I don't think people are. And it's the same thing in the real estate business. How do you make a house attractive without spending thousands of dollars? And people know many times it's paint, which is not very expensive, carpeting or flooring, which again is not super expensive, and just certain types of ways that you arrange the room or decorate the room, or certain colors are more expansive. You can do little things to make it more valuable.
What's the very first step somebody should do if they want to start employing this profit first methodology, mentality, habit?
The hardest thing for everybody is opening the bank accounts. It literally is the first step that stops everybody. So go open the bank accounts and just start moving the money. Here's the thing. In the first 3 months, it's going to fail. You're going to run out of money. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be your gut punch to say, what do I need to do differently? So that might be, hey, I can't give terms of 30 and 45 days. I need to get paid up front, or I need half my money up front. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. It might just be looking around throughout your company and saying, where are we wasting money? Are we paying for software we don't use? What's going on in the business? And so but it's a mindset. It's forcing you to think about every part of your business and say, is this necessary? Do we need to do it? And then how do we improve efficiency around it? And you know who's really big on that is Elon Musk. Elon Musk will constantly do everything he can to drive costs out of production. And he will really focus on, why do we need that? And down to the thing where they put shingles on the roof. He's like, why do we need 4 nails? Why can't we do it with 2 nails? And they'll do it with 2 nails and then they'll go, it failed. Okay, let's try 3. 3 works. Good. We're doing 25% less. And he'll do that with everything in business. And so I think we need to understand, we need to be efficient, and we need to force our efficiency upon us. And that's what Profit First is really about. Forcing people to think, be efficient, be resourceful, not just throw money at every problem, because it's not going to solve the problem.
I just finished that biography of Musk, and it was parts of it were, like bark out loud funny, but how maniacal he could be about efficiency. And you would say, like, so why 4 nails when could we do it with 3? what about two? And they said they would come back and say, well, after at two, they or one, or I forget what it was, they spin, or that's when the wind starts blowing them off. He's like, okay, fine, go back to three. But he just cut everywhere. Even there was like a delay in the manufacture, the process, the line of his car. It's like, why is there a delay? We have to wait for the glue to dry on this patch on the floor. It's like, what's that even for? And nobody could tell him. It finally went back to the engineers, like it was some kind of sound dampening thing. Do we need that? I don't know. Get rid of it. So, I thought it was a great book and a perfect example of how to examine every aspect of your business to get it the right way. And that's what you got to do. Your finances being a major part of that, and definitely a good thermometer for the health of the business. Is if you're, like you said, uh, if money's coming in, if you're actually building up reserves and building up the profit, something's working right. If it's empty or negative, uh, something's got to be fixed. Well,
And he's very big with that. And I agree with it. The way we look at profit first is it's the first step. It's just your wake up call to say, how is the money working and going? Then you really have to look at the business. And what we do is we look at the business through three major drivers. The first driver is driving revenue, which every business owner kind of always looks at, how do I drive revenue? The second driver is, how do I drive profit? And driving profit is understanding all that stuff that Elon's talking about in the middle. How do I optimize all of my production, my delivery, my overhead? How do I keep it simple and lean and fast? The third is driving cash flow. And that is a question of, when is cash coming in and when is cash going out? And being clear on that. And I think a lot of business owners don't know how the cash is moving through the organization. And that becomes a major problem. So within those three drivers, we have 16 different levers. And when you know how to use a lever and you know which lever is the problem, then you know where to focus and what to do to improve the system and where in the system things are breaking down. So again, that's just bringing a little bit more insights to it. It's part of that is just nuance. Part of that is wisdom. Part of that is being able to read the tea leaves and just know, for this particular business, these are the three choke points in the business that need to be fixed. And when you fix those, the system runs better. And again, it comes back, like you talked about, the sound dampening. Do we need that or don't we? That's a choke point. When you remove it, we fix it. And every business works. Everyone thinks their business is different. It's not. Every business works the same way. It's got the same three drivers. It has the same 16 levers, but not every lever gets used in every business. And so there are those differentials. But once you know how to break it down and look at it systematically, it becomes very easy to know what to do with your business. And, it's funny. It's kind of like sports. You go to a sports stadium and you watch a game. There's a scoreboard, isn't there? Right? There's markers on the field that tell you where you are on the field. There's a time clock. And yet in business, we forget about the time clock. We forget about where we are on the field, and we forget about our scoreboard. We just wing it. And that's kind of silly.
it's a great example. Well, I think that's a great place to start landing the plane. I would like to transition into the final segment, which is called the Countdown to Impact. This is a 3, 2, 1. 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who have all made an impact in your life.
3 books. So, The Road Less Stupid. That's a good book, and it started with real estate, right? Keith Cunningham's phenomenal. Um, I do like Awareness by Anthony DeMello, so going to a whole different kind of place. Um, and I love stuff by Andy Andrews. He's got a ton of books, but
Mm-hmm.
it's story based life. And so it's the wisdom in the lessons that are always there. And they're kind of easy to understand. So those are some good books. Quotes. That one's a little harder. The one that I always fall back on though is iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. But I've kind of expanded on it to say accept the sharpening. Because everyone wants to sharpen everyone else's iron. Nobody wants to take the sharpening of their iron. And so I think that that's a big part of it. You've got to accept that type of sharpening. And is it Tony Robbins who always say, turn your expectations into appreciation and life becomes pretty good? And instead of complaining about everything, appreciate the good of what you have at the moment. And so I think that's a big part of it. And then the last part, you asked me about a person. That one's difficult. I don't know of one person. There've been so many people, and some of them I've never actually met. Like you read Elon Musk's book, and I learn a lot from him. I've learned a lot from Mike Michalowicz and being with Profit First. It helped me put a framework together for my business and put words together that help me do what I do. So there's tons of people. It's hard to pick one out, but they've all helped in a variety of different ways.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. And we'll get those into the show notes as well. I love The Road Less Stupid. It is just, cover to cover loaded with great, nuggets of wisdom. Yeah, I love it. I love he ends each segment or chapter with "Here it is" on a bumper sticker. Yeah. But
Well, he
oh
ends every chapter with the quote, "Now go think."
yes, because he schedules thinking time into his day, and I actually use that myself now. That's probably maybe the first thing I do in the morning is my own thinking time. But yeah, now go think. Yeah. So, uh, Rocky, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time. Where can people go to find out more, connect, and learn more about you?
So our business is Profit Comes First, and you can find us at profitcomesfirst.com. And from there, you can find both our podcasts. Aaron's going to be on shortly on the Richer Soul podcast. So you can check out that lesson as we flip the microphone the other way. And if you Google my name, you'll find tons of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll get that into the show notes. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Right now, before you put your phone down or move on to the next show, open up your tab in your browser and type in profitcomesfirst.com and find Rocky's podcasts and subscribe. Well, sir, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.